Hi and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to talk about why size doesn't matter in landscape photography and what I mean by this. We're all very used to seeing images of massive waterfalls within the landscape and capturing those. But in a recent poll on my channel, a lot of people were explaining that finding locations is tricky, and we don't all live in Iceland or Yosemite National Park and have access to such grand features. So what I want to do today is explain how you can capture big pictures, great images on small waterfalls, such as this one behind me right now. And whilst we're scoping out the location, remember, photography is not always about going and capturing the biggest of landscapes. It's about capturing the world around us and the environment that we live in, whether that be small or grand. Whilst on location, remember to scope out the little details. On this waterfall, there's nothing much more than probably 1.5, 2 feet high at the maximum. As I say, I'm going to scope out some lines now, and what I'll do is I'll present a series of compositions. I'll go through those quite quickly just to explain how I think you can demonstrate this. And at the end of this video, I'll also include a gallery of images that I've captured on location today for you to just look at and compare those. Feel free to drop any comments on your favorites below in the comment section of the video. And if you find this useful, please remember to like and subscribe. Support that you show is absolutely massively appreciated and really helps the channel to grow. Thank you for that in advance. So the first composition I'm going to look at here is the waterfall in the middle. This is possibly the biggest and most rapid of the water flows on this small waterfall. But what I've got is the rocks in the foreground with the grass on to frame the bottom of the image. And I've got the flowers on the right hand side, which are then offset against the dark rocks in the background. And I'm going to take an initial first image of this in full flow, and then what I'll do is I'll apply an ND filter and slow it down a little bit so that we can get a little bit of motion blur. And remember, when you do that, turn off image stabilization. You don't want that image stabilization to blur everything around the waterfall. But that's the subject of one of my other videos, which you can check out on shooting waterfalls. And what I'll do also is, as I present each of the images I capture, I'll also give the technical information, the aperture, etc. that I'm using. I am tripod mounting because I want to try to do some long exposures, and all of the images I will actually give you the technical details of each and how I captured them, as well as the composition walkthroughs. It's a bit of an overcast day today, so polarizing filter on to cut out the reflections on the waterfall, and lens hood on to cut out any ambient light. So that was our first image. What I'm going to do now is zoom right in on I love the way the water is flowing over the rock in the middle of that waterfall. So what I'm going to do is zoom in on that and catch them, and this is where I'm going to apply an ND filter to the lens so that it slows the motion down and it'll allow us to get that really beautiful flow over the top of the rock. Time to attach the telephoto now. If you've got access to one of these are absolutely phenomenal for landscape photography. And I'm going to use this to zoom right in on the water flow over that rock. So we've got the telephoto attached now. We've zoomed in at about 270, 280 millimeters. Again, I'll put the technical details in the image that I produced. But we've got a lovely composition of the water flowing over the rock, really zooming in on the detail. We've got a foreground rock, and it's just framed by that in the bottom right as the water goes to the left. So let's capture this image. And again, please feel free to let me know what you think. I'm going to do a few zoom-ins here because we've got a beautiful transition as the water comes down on the left-hand side as well of the waterfall. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to capture a few zoomed in here to give you some composition ideas to how to capture things on location when you're in places where the features aren't grand and massive. And I'm hoping this is starting to give you some ideas. There's plenty more to come, but I hope that this is giving you a few ideas. And I've moved position now. I've actually not moved very far at all. But what we've got, I've just moved a couple of meters, but the flow on the left, which is probably 3 small step downs, each of just a few inches. But we've got a really small one of about 1 foot coming in from the right-hand side. And what I'm going to try is a really long, milky exposure. I don't know whether this will work, I'll be honest, but I just think if I'm going to include the image. I want to get a milky image for you. Just let me know what you think in the comments below as to whether you think this works, because it just looks, you've got a lovely S shape and the little falls just coming in from the right, I think will create an image that looks bigger than it really is. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below to this next image before I go on to my further compositions. And really very quickly, what I realized is on my first take of this shot, I had image stabilization switched on. I'm going to show you the effect around the waterfall that creates very quickly, and why you need to switch image stabilization off when shooting waterfalls, before I show you the actual pictures with image stabilization turned off, which is the correct thing to do with waterfalls. And as you may be able to see, and apologies if it's really noisy, I'm really close to the waterfall now. I've kind of zoomed in a little bit on this. We've got some beautiful leading lines leading up to the waterfall. We've got the water coming down over the rocks in layers, and it's probably about a metre, 3 feet tall. This is perhaps actually the tallest part of this entire waterfall. It's coming from a stream on the side rather than the main river. But what we've got in the foreground is this lovely swirling effect in the water. So I'm going to capture this. This is a beautiful composition. It's a bit tricky, and this is one of the perils of landscape photography, is getting into location. You can probably see this tree branch blowing me around, and I'm having to crouch because I'm below the bushes on the rocks that are extremely slippy. So I've already dropped my polarizing filter, but fortunately no damage was done, just needed a little bit of a clean from the moss on the rocks. So this is where I've got my polarizer, I've got my ND filter as well. I take a series of images, but I think that we can get some epic ones from this location. And one thing to remember when on location, to make your image look maybe more grand or bigger than it really is to actually exclude anything of scale. So there's a really small footbridge in the background. I'm going to exclude that completely. That will only confuse things. Did anybody else notice that fly just then? On location, think about how the image will look. I'm using this on quite a wide setting. It's probably on about 24 millimeters at the moment in terms of zoom. Because what I want to do is compose the image of the waterfall flowing through. And I'm going to try this in landscape and portrait. So let me know what you think of these following images, and then I'll move on to the next composition. So what I'm doing is zooming right into this waterfall here as well as picking up the swirl on the previous images. What I'm now going to do is zoom right in on the detail, because there's a great little fall on the left, and as it hits a rock and bounces over, it actually looks more epic and grand than it is. So let me see if you think this image works. I think this, so far, this could be my favourite before I move on to the next composition. Okay, so our final composition location now is kind of just above the waterfall, looking across the series of cascades. And before I go into that, remember, if you do like this and find it useful, remember to like and subscribe. It massively helps the channel, and thank you for your support yet again. Absolutely amazing. So this is my final composition. The tripod is perched on the grassy bank. This is fantastic, where spikes come in really useful on the bottom of the tripod. I can get those spikes into the grassy bank so that the camera does not fall into the waterfall. But what I've got here, I've got the water flow coming in from the right, and then it goes across and the water flows out to the top left. So we've got the natural flow from the right to the left of the water, almost in an S shape, but it's coming over these cascades. And the way of getting above the water like this really makes our waterfall look much grander than it actually is. So let's capture these images and let's see what we think of these as well. I do hope that these compositions have really given you some ideas of how you can find great pictures. I hope you think they're great anyway, who knows. Let me know in the comments below. But I hope that you now can realize that you can get great images from small locations. You don't need to travel the world to go to massive locations. And I know they're great to visit. I'm not trying to dismiss them, but what I'm saying is you can get just as good an image right on your doorstep with small locations. So I hope this has proven useful, inspirational maybe, and until next time, thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you soon.